official business.
Gavel's pretty handy.
Hey, Judy.
Okay, we'll call the Board of Adjustment meeting to order. And we need to approve the agenda and the minutes for the June 12th meeting. Any corrections, additions, changes, motion?
Wasn't here, so.
Neither was Linda. How does that work, Tim?
You can make your own
I
motion.
read,
you can
through
still-
them. It didn't look bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can still, you got a quorum, you can still pass the,
but they weren't here.
Can't Judy make a motion? Can't the chair
I'll make a motion, but somebody
Then you were
seconded.
here.
I was here.
yeah. So you're vouching for them by you making the motion, and then they
Okay,
will trust you.
okay, second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Done. New business, Camp Menogyn, YMCA of the Greater Mini Twin Cities, variance request. 2024-10V YMCA camp. Neva.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a variance request for relief from the Cook County Zoning Ordinance to place a 2,400 square foot of decking in the shore impact zone and a 30 by 46 accessory structure for an administrative building at a reduced ordinary high water level or shoreline setback 32 feet from West Bearskin Lake, where a minimum of 100 feet is required, located at YMCA Camp Menogyn. The applicant's property includes 73 acres with approximately 3,000 feet of West Bearskin Lake shoreline. The project site on Government Lot 11 is within the Resort Commercial Residential Zone District. Newly created lots within the zone district must be 5 acres, and West Bearskin Lake is a recreational development lake. For project description, YMCA Camp Menogyn is requesting to place a new administrative building and decking on their property on West Bearskin Lake. The 30 by 46 building would be placed 32 feet from the ordinary high water level, and the approximate 2,400 square feet of decking would be placed between the new building and the lake. The structure and the decking are proposed to be placed within the shore impact zone. The design of this building is proposing a shed roof to direct all water runoff from the building away from the lake, which would make the drainage approximately 62 feet from the current boardwalk. I included the ordinance citation for the lake classification, which has the 100-foot building setback requirement, as well as the definition of the shore impact zone, which is the land located between the ordinary high water level of a public water and the line parallel to it at a setback of 50% of the required structure setback, with a figure of that illustrated on the top of page 4. For the intent of the shore impact zone, I provided some language from the Minnesota DNR handout, which states that the shore impact zone was created in the 1989 shoreline standards to maintain existing buffers, limit the number of buildings placed in close proximity to the water, reduce soil erosion caused by construction or vegetation removal, and preserve aesthetic values. It serves to buffer the water from more intensive land uses, a proliferation of accessory structures, clutters shores, and displaces natural vegetation. Moreover, construction near the shoreline brings grading and filling activities and increases erosion. In order to protect shoreline soils, vegetation, and aesthetics, the shore impact zone was designated to protect important amenities of the lake while still allowing for access to the water body. On the bottom of page 10 of 70 of the packet, there's an excerpt from the application with a site plan showing where that proposed new structure is located. For background, Camp Menogyn has been in this location since the 1920s. The parcel is composed of 2 separate pieces of land. Government Lot 11 is the water access only part of the property on the north side of West Bearskin Lake, and Government Lot 8 is on the south side of West Bearskin Lake. Various land use permits have been issued over the years for development and maintenance of the property. I provided a brief description of those permits, which include a couple of structures that were built at conforming sites on the property. The photo on page 11 of 70 of the staff narrative show more or less the entrance, the main entrance of YMCA Camp Menogyn from the water access site, where all visitors and guests enter the property from this location via boat in the summer months. The proposed building is located between the 2 existing structures behind the canoes in the photo shown. There's a zoning map that shows the approximate project site and also illustrates the 2 different government lots that are both included in the same parcel number. And then on page 13 of 70, there's an aerial photo. The top aerial photo is a north orientation, so you can kind of see the canoes in that back bay. And then the photo directly underneath that is a south orientation because you couldn't really see that project site or the canoes from the north orientation. So those are just flipped photos. Apologies if that was confusing at all. For site conditions and consideration, septic, the administrative building will not generate additional wastewater. Impervious surface coverage, the variance would increase impervious surface coverage within the shore impact zone. Wetlands are present west of the proposed project site. This building site is chosen to avoid wetland impacts in accordance with the State Wetland Conservation Act. There is a steep slope behind the structure, which is a landscape feature that the applicants are avoiding. There's no significant noise generating from this request. There's no significant lighting that should be generated from this request. The application indicates that this is a low-lying area in the bay, which would have less visibility to lake users than if the structure was placed up at the hillside facing the lake. Safe access, the property is water access only with private water access from Government Lot 8 off of Menogyn Trail. Parking is available at Government Lot 8. And for other, the area that is proposed to be covered in decking has minimal capacity to support native vegetation. It appears that the natural shoreline was altered by fill and the existing boardwalk. There's a photo on the bottom of page 14 of 70 in the packet that shows some of that fill material that's within the area that the proposed decking is proposed to be placed in. For public noticing, the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on June 21st. 10 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments and the DNR hydrologist. 1 written comment was received from an adjacent property owner and 3 technical memos were received during the written comment period. 1 property owner, Gretchen Lyman Amis, supported the request as a property owner on West Bearskin Lake. A memo was received from Cook County Environmental Health Specialist Mitch Everson, indicating that a new septic inspection will be required before the land use permit can be issued, as well as some form of sewage treatment will be required to serve the building. A technical memo from Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District Technician Max Tossenson explained that the proposal for the decking may be more beneficial to the lake than to reduce the impact of foot traffic in the shore impact zone. An excerpt of his memo reads, perhaps one of the most significant land use impacts are impervious surfaces. Impervious surfaces near Bearskin Lake can have large nutrient impacts. Impervious surfaces concentrate stormwater flow into areas that are not acclimated to extra runoff. If stormwater is not taken care of in a conservation-minded way, overland flow can cause the transport of nutrients to the lake. It is recommended that stormwater be directed from the lake to allow water to infiltrate to the soil instead of flowing overland. The amount of foot travel that Camp Menogyn sees on the shoreline west Bearskin is unlike many shoreline sites in the county. Having a boardwalk patio at this site is a good way to reduce soil disturbance. Whenever soil is displaced by foot traffic, it has greater chance of being swept away in a storm event. Reducing the traffic the soils see will result in less nutrient loading to the lake compared with the contrary. With the proposed changes to this property, the SWCD recommends to ensure stormwater controls are in place to direct water from the shoreline to minimize sediment and nutrient flow into the lake, reduce sheet overflow, and lessen erosion impacts to the area. Implementation of a boardwalk in the buffer area to reduce soil disturbance and nutrient impact, and continued monitoring for erosion where impervious surfaces are concentrating water flow. The last memo that was received was the DNR area hydrologist, Danny Braund. The DNR letter recommends denial of the variance for the deck, but does not oppose the variance for the administrative building. An excerpt from that reads, the DNR recommends denial of the variance due to the request to reduce the required structure setback of 100 feet to 0 feet for the construction of the large deck. The DNR does not view the variance request to construct the admin building structure as problematic or controversial. If the variance is approved for the structure construction, we recommend that the applicant abides by the submitted design plans. We also recommend that the best management practices be put into place during the development to minimize stormwater runoff into West Bearskin Lake, and that if any vegetation is removed during development, that additional vegetation be added to the riparian area and shoreline to further minimize any future runoff pollution from entering West Bearskin Lake. Staff consideration for facts and findings. I included proposed draft findings that would reflect the facts found in the staff narrative aligned with the variance criteria. So the first, the variance is consistent with the goals and policy of the Comprehensive Land Use Guide Plan and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance and other county official controls. The setback for this designated lake is 100 feet. This proposed setback for the building is 32 feet and 0 feet for the deck. The existing land use guide plan administrative and intergovernmental goals. have a policy that states land use related decisions shall recognize the need to duly consider the rights and responsibilities of the general public good with the corresponding rights and responsibilities of the individual. And the third finding is the shore impact zone is an area intended to protect water quality by managing development and vegetation removal. The decking will help protect water quality by reducing the impacts of foot traffic and soil disturbance, overall leading to less nutrient loading into West Bearskin Lake. The proposed use of the property is allowed in the land use district in which the property is located. The parcel is zoned resort commercial residential. Administrative outfitting uses are permitted in the zone district. The property owner is proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. The property owner does propose to use the property in a reasonable manner that supports the historical and existing uses on the property. The property owner has established that the practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Those findings read, the lot is on the border of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. This building location conceals views of this structure from the lake. Number 2, being a water access only site, this location is the entrance of the property to the public and guests and has high foot traffic in the shore impact zone. And the third finding, a unique factor of this property is that it is an isolated private parcel on the boundary of a designated wilderness area. The site location is intended to minimize visual impact to the lake while also being visible to guests and members of the public, which is made possible due to the unique cove. Approving the variance to maintain the essential character of the locality. The building site will not be visible to the lake or other lakeshore owners due to the unique cove feature. This building has been proposed. And the last variance finding, the property owner has established that practical difficulty involves more than economic considerations alone. Finding economic considerations are not a reason for the variance request. Staff recommendations for consideration. Shoreland regulations aim to limit soil disturbances, vegetation clearing, and structure development within the shore impact zone to protect water quality and provide habitat to riparian plants and animals. The decking addition is proposed in a location that has not had significant shoreland vegetation or habitat for many years due to the heavy foot traffic and is used as the main landing and access corridor for the camp. Due to the human influence of this shore impact zone, there is minimal ability to restore this area with vegetation due to poor quality soils that have been compacted. The decking will keep foot traffic off the ground and reduce erosion of the current soils and gravel, providing an overall benefit to the lake. Since this is a water access only site, there is no alternative to relocate the entrance of the property. The applicants met with representatives from Cook County Land Services and Soil and Water Conservation District to discuss shoreland regulations and consider design criteria to mitigate the impacts of the proposed project. The shed roof design is an important aspect of this request that redirects stormwater flow outside the shore impact zone. To understand the potential impacts of the decking, it is important to understand the unique water access only aspect of this property and the importance to reduce foot traffic on the soils to be protective of the lake's water quality. The DNR memo suggests that the size of the decking may be larger than is necessary. This is a point the Board of Adjustment may consider further discussion. If approved, the following conditions may be attached to this variance request. The property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 and Cook County septic requirements. Number 2, prior to issuing the land use permit, the septic compliance inspection request form shall be submitted as well as evidence of adequate wastewater treatment services to serve the building. Number 3, no component of the proposed building may be closer than 32 feet from the existing boardwalk. And number 4, the gutter or catchment system or vegetation conducive to water retention shall be included on all new or proposed structures to divert precipitation and snowmelt away from West Bearskin Lake.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak? If so, step to the microphone and state your name.
We're here on behalf of Camp Menogyn. Should you have any questions, if you'd like us to formally introduce ourselves, we'd be happy to.
Okay. Why don't you do that?
My name is Aaron Burgad. I'm a volunteer board member for Camp Menogyn and help to manage the Properties and Facilities Committee, which has been working with NEVA and the county to come up with a design for our building.
Thank you. And you are?
My name is Forrest Aarons. I'm the interim executive director for YMCA Camp Menogyn.
Thank you. And you're here, do you have anything you wish to add to Neva's presentation?
No, I think that her presentation summed up very well our intentions, and
Okay.
we appreciate the support and we appreciate the Board of Adjustment taking a look at our request.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? We'll close it for the public. Okay. Brad?
The question I had was on the boardwalk sizing, and what was the thought process behind that in terms of how you size to that? What's intended for it, what's gonna be stored on it, or I see the canoes and kayaks in the pictures, but what is the intent of that boardwalk?
Yeah, absolutely. The canoes and kayaks will ultimately move to allow space for the boardwalk. Some of them will likely remain on top of it. But it's to provide, easy access for folks to the building, as well as a lay-down area might be the best way to describe it. As groups, prepare to go on trips in the boundary waters and then return, they are
Staging.
unpacking all their equipment. Staging area, that's correct. And to minimize the impact on what little bit of soil is left there, it was our intention to cover it over. Further, we've been gently trying to ensure that our site is as ADA accessible as possible. We serve some groups in the fall, winter, spring season that are, in wheelchairs or otherwise have difficulty with mobility, and just ensuring that we can create a gentle slope from where access to the site is up to this building through a wide boardwalk decking area is one of our thoughts there.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a site visit, and the building, if you look at page 7 here, the proposed building is going to be not as close as the existing building, and it appears to, as though it's going to follow along the same line. So if you look there, there's the building, and then they've got the decking in front of the building. And people were there setting up for their trip when I arrived, so it was good to see how things were going to be used.
It makes sense.
It made sense to me what they were proposing. And again, the building that they'd like to put up is about probably half, if you go down to the center of this building and go a straight line across, that's where it's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, and it made sense. That area where the canoes are was just really hard packed from all of the foot traffic, and it just made sense to me. And there was really no other place to put that building. It just let me see. I don't agree with what the DNR had mentioned here. I think it is. It looks like it would be the best idea to put decking there to avoid.
Will there
further
be
erosion.
another area cleared for the canoes?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just going to say, no additional area would have to be cleared for the canoes. We would relocate a few of them to different locations within the site, and then some of them would go on top of the decking.
Okay.
I think one further comment I might add is, we did look at if the decking could be narrower, but we didn't want to create a condition where off that existing decking that you saw, Linda, you would go down 3 steps and take 2 steps and then come back up 3 steps to the elevation. Seemed like an opportunity for a tripping hazard, or just to make it more difficult, and one continuous surface seemed to be
Okay.
the most convenient setup.
All right. Charlie, do you have questions,
I
comments?
think all my questions were answered. I think
Yeah.
it makes sense.
The one thing I thought of is on decking like that, sometimes weeds and stuff grow through. Do you treat with chemicals? Okay.
No chemicals. But yeah, we would imagine it'd be, a 2x6 decking with 1/4-inch gaps in it to allow water and dust to fall through. But yeah, no chemical treatment. If anything were required, we could just trim.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any further questions, comments? I need a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve with the 4 proposed conditions as they're written, in concurrence with staff's. And I, motion with all 4 conditions as written, and I agree with staff's narrative and conclusions on our findings of fact.
We would accept the recommendation.
And I second.
So there's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Got it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
And then we'll go to Brad Foley and Judith Werner. Variance request, 2024-11V. Neva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a variance request for relief from the Cook County Zoning Ordinance to place a new principal structure at a reduced top of bluff setback where a minimum of 30 feet is required within the North Shore Management Zone. The applicant's property includes 2.06 acres with no water frontage. The parcel is contained entirely within the single-family residential zone district. The applicant's property was platted in 1998 within the Johannes Tofty Homestead Sites plat. Newly created lots within the zone district must be 2 acres in size. And as I mentioned, the property is within the North Shore Management Zone and is subject to shoreline regulations. The applicants, Judith Werner and Bradley Foley, are requesting relief from the bluff setback standards to place a new single-family home, 700 square feet, with a main floor with a 400 square foot loft on Lot 5, Block 1 within the Johannes Tofty Homestead Sites plat in Tofty. The proposed structure would be placed 10 feet from the top of bluff and within the bluff impact area. I included the ordinance requirements for the bluff area standards, which outlines the 30-foot top of bluff setback, and that no structures should be placed within the bluff impact zone. And the bluff impact zone definition, which is means a bluff and land located within 20 feet from the top of bluff. On page 44 of 70 of the packets is the local zoning map of the area. So you'll see on that zoning map, the bluff feature is notated as a black blob with red outline. So notice that they're inside a road bend there. And it's kind of blue highlighting for the specific parcel. So I kind of called out about the approximate building location. So it's kind of in that northwest corner of that lot, or the westerly corner of that lot. For background, this parcel is within the plat, as I mentioned, that was established in 1998. The file for the plat does not identify the bluff. However, the plat file does include a letter from Cook County Soil and Water District at that point in time, which stated the following. One concern would be the steepness of the slopes relative to development. When I shared the proposed site with the Soil and Water District Board on May 7th, they discussed the idea that steep slopes be set aside as no construction zones. Because of the erosion potential, these areas should be maintained as undisturbed condition. Areas where this limitation might apply includes, and then this is one of those lots where that was identified in that plat development. This property is within the North Shore Management Plan area boundary, which is the classified shoreland area to Lake Superior corridor. Since the property falls within the shoreland area, the steep slope qualifies as a bluff and the setback has a 30-foot. 4 other parcels within this plat have been built within the bluff setback. One unique aspect of this variance request is that the previous zoning determinations on neighboring properties did not correctly apply the shoreline standards. The platting in 1998, as well as the land use permits issued for neighboring properties at 90, 96, and 102 Hoagland Drive between 2005 and 2008, did not identify these properties within the North Shore Management Plan area boundary. This issue came to Land Services' attention during a neighboring variance in 2022, and moving forward, the bluff setback has been applied appropriately. The 2022 variance was approved, during which time the Board of Adjustment found the request reasonable with consideration to the surrounding properties and the distance from Lake Superior. For site conditions and considerations, for septic, the Cook County Environmental Health Officer, Mitch Everson, provided a technical memo indicating that the septic site has been identified by a licensed septic designer and confirmed by the county. Impervious surface coverage, the project will conform to impervious surface coverage standards. For wetlands, the Cook County Wetland Specialist, Mitch Travis, conducted a site visit and determined that wetlands are not a factor impacting the variance request. For slope, there is a bluff feature on the property indicated by the black on the map on page 4. The parking pad established previously is near the top of the bluff. And safe access, the driveway is built off Hoagland Drive. The proposed build site is over 1,300 feet from Lake Superior. The photo on page 46 of 70 shows the approximate top of bluff, which was at the end of the gravel fill pad placed previously on site. For public noticing, the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on June 21st. 47 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments and DNR hydrologist. For exhibits, there is 1 written comment from an adjacent property owner and 3 technical memos received during the written comment period. An adjacent property owner within this plat, Dennis Risdahl, provided a written comment in support of this variance request. A technical memo from Cook County Environmental Health Specialist, Mitch Everson, indicated that a septic site has been identified by a licensed septic designer and confirmed by the county. Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District Technician Max Tossenson provided a technical memo explaining the importance of maintaining vegetation along the slope of a bluff and directing water runoff away from the bluff. This information indicates that land use practices should include best management practices, which include ensuring stormwater from the bluff is directed away to help maintain the integrity of the bluff, and remove as little of the trees and vegetation as possible to provide future stability and transpiration. And the DNR area hydrologist, Danny Bronze, provided a technical memo. The DNR letter recommends denial of the variance due to their review of the practical difficulties criteria. An excerpt of that reads, the DNR recommends denial of the variance request to reduce the required structure setback of 30 feet to 10 feet for the construction of the structure. If the variance is approved for the single-family dwelling to be constructed, we recommend that the best management practices be put into place during the development to minimize runoff and erosion of the bluff. We also recommend that the Board of Adjustment works closely with the applicant to design the structure, which should include gutters, no decking, or other structures within the setback, and increased vegetation be added to the tree line and erosion controls to the bluff impact zone to further reinforce the bluff to prevent slumping. For staff consideration of facts and findings for the variance criteria, the variance is consistent with the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Land Use Guide Plan and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance and other official controls. The applicant's proposing a 10-foot setback from the top of bluff, which typically has a 30-foot standard setback. And the Land Use Guide Plan Administrative Goals has a policy which states the land use related decision shall recognize the need to duly consider the rights and responsibilities of the general public good with the corresponding rights and responsibilities of the individual. The proposed use of the property is allowed in the land use district in which the property is located. The finding, the parcel is zoned single-family residential. Single-family homes are permitted in this district. The question, the property owner is proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. The proposed finding, the placement of this structure in the bluff impact area, in the bluff setback area, is reasonable given the significant distance from surface waters in Lake Superior. The property owner has established that practical difficulty is involved due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Proposed finding number 1, the lot was created through a platting process that did identify the steep slope but did not accurately identify the bluff feature and its required setback. And the second finding, the platted lot is on the inside bend of a platted road. Approving the variance maintain the essential character of the locality. Proposed finding, 4 other residential developments have been built in this plat within the bluff setback. And last question, the property owner has established the practical difficulty involves more than economic considerations alone. Proposed finding, economic considerations are not the reason for the variance request. Staff recommendation for consideration. Given the significant distance from Lake Superior, over 1,300 feet, the presence of other non-conforming structures within this plat, and the reasonable size of the proposed structure, this appears to be a reasonable request that should have no harmful effect on Lake Superior. If approved, the following conditions may be attached to this variance request. Number 1, the property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 and the Cook County septic requirements. Number 2, encroachment into the setbacks are allowed in accordance with the design plans submitted by the applicant in the variance application. Number 3, the bluff slope shall remain naturally vegetated with trees and shrubs to provide slope stabilization. Number 4, stormwater drainage shall direct water towards the road ditches rather than down the bluff through the use of effective grading and gutters. And number 5, no additional decking or patios are permitted within the bluff impact zone, which is 20 feet from the top of the bluff.
Thank you. Is there someone here who wishes to speak on this variance request? Can you come forward? And state
Thanks.
your
My
name
name
and
is
ad-
Brad Foley, and I'm one of the property owners along with my wife. So just, I would just probably say in summation, which was very well done, that we're prepared to comply with all of the recommendations, including the drainage and the increased vegetation and all of the factors that would diminish any possibility of erosion. I think we all sort of are in the same, we're in agreement on that, so.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else wish to speak to this request? We'll close it to the public. Okay, let's start with Linda. Did you visit?
I did not visit this one.
Okay. Comments?
I don't have
Not
any to
yet?
share. No, not yet.
Okay, Brad?
I did visit the site. Was the stakes and the tape that is up, that basically the outline of where the building's to go?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I see that he's maximized the flat spot that it has on the property. The slopes do start off immediately, but they're quite gentle for the first 20 or 30 feet, 40 feet. I walked down both of them into the woods quite a ways before we started to find the slope steepening. So he has built the 10 feet, you know, from the bluff impact zone is, I'm sure, technically correct, but in terms of slope and actual erosion potential and so forth, minimal. The vegetation is well established there. The trees seem to be doing fine, no signs of anything. It seems to be well drained. So I didn't find any particular sense of risk like I've seen sometimes when we're in the, you know, thinking of other properties we've looked at, and you start looking at getting close to Lake Superior, and some of them get kind of crazy, but I don't have that feeling at all with this one.
Okay. Is there a reason that it can't be built in a spot that doesn't require a variance?
There really is, I think what the intention of the whole thing, where it was, where the road curves and to the south, it left us with really only one site that was acceptable, because the bluff area is quite wide, and we just don't see another way to put that in. This seems to be the most practical approach, I think.
Okay. Is there a place to put a garage?
They're not without further alteration. And one of the things that we, wanted to use, I think it was pointed out, the existing driveway and access, that would preclude a garage in that area, because we don't want to add any more impervious surface. Really want to keep the storm drainage to a minimum and direct that away from the bluff impact zone.
Yeah, because that's the next request. It's the next owner, the next step is, we need places to put our stuff. Where are we going to put the garage? Oh, we need another variance. Is there a place to put a garage that doesn't require a variance? Or are you taking up the space that would?
I think we're taking the best approach, but I don't believe that, and it's really out, I'm not an expert, but that would require changing the driveway, and that becomes more of a ground disturbance, erosion issue.
Okay. Charlie, do you have comments?
No, I mean, I'm familiar with this road and this site. I didn't visit for this particular application, but I think given the reasonable size of the structure, and I think this is probably a pretty good option.
Yeah. And Linda, any thoughts?
I think it's reasonable as well, given that it's so far from Lake Superior.
Yeah.
And the gentle slope that Brad was talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my concern is we've got 4 others that haven't met the setback from the bluff. I mean, if it can be built without a variance, I kind of lean that it should, because I don't think we can answer the questions all with no's. The practical difficulty is it seemed like a logical spot. I'm just questioning.
I think the practical difficulty is the slopes even away from the bluff.
Yeah.
I think this is the logical.
Yeah. Does it can we answer the question?
safest site for that, for a structure on this.
Is there a
lot.
place below the bluff where setbacks could be met properly? From the driveway and,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that's not what you bought, I know that. You bought a bluff with the intent of seeing the lake. And that was what was purchased.
My question to that would be, did Mitch Travis look at the entire site or just this building area? And did he have any concerns down below?
Yep, good question. So that's why I asked Ms. Travis to go on site, was to identify whether there was wetlands in that lower area. And he didn't identify any wetlands down there that would take away the opportunity to build down there. It's not a part of my review to look at every available building site, because that's not how we're supposed to be reviewing the variance specifically. We're supposed to look at this location and what the reason for those setbacks are and whether that's a reasonable, you know, proposal meeting those requirements. So, but I do believe there is a conforming spot down there, to answer your question directly.
Yeah.
And would that address the question then if the subsequent structure wanted to be built, it'd have to go down there if we approved this?
Well,
Could
it's
we-
the natural progression, you know, we're moving up and we want to retire there. Now we need a 3-car garage.
Mhm.
You know, we want to be closer to the bluff because it's by the house. You know, it's just a natural progression of things and we see it all the time. Tim?
Yeah, Madam Chair, you're correct in the fact that you do see that all the time, and there are those kind of natural inclinations. That's why each request is taken in and of itself. And so the board at that time, if somebody does come in, then has a different kind of look at what the practical difficulty being created by the property owner, if they actually were granted to be able to build in the spot, then took that spot, and would that then allow as a practical difficulty for them to achieve another one? It kind of makes the argument more so that they wouldn't be able to get a subsequent variance for that.
Mm-hmm.
No, but we have to address the request we've been given.
Yes.
And
Not-
forecasting.
Right.
Right.
Not forecast into what might be something in the future. Good. I'm good with that. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure we were
Okay,
coloring inside the lines.
okay. Well, you know, you've heard the discussion, so you know if next week you want a garage, it's gonna be a tough sell. Or, you know, it's a lot of times new buyers have, you know, expansion plans, so, okay. Any other questions, concerns? And I'd like to just look at this, the variance is consistent with the goals and policies, the first question. It requires a 30-foot setback. The applicant is proposing, there's no reason that it's okay in the recommendation that I can see. Yes, there's a 30-foot setback, and yes, the request is for, yeah, help me.
How about land use-related decisions shall recognize the need to duly consider the rights and responsibilities of the general public, good with the corresponding rights and responsibilities of the individual.
Okay. The others are fine as far as I'm concerned, so. And if that answers the question correctly, and we're comfortable with it, I'm okay. So I need a motion.
Did you had your question answered on that first one? Are you good? Okay. Had a little trouble following as you were thinking out loud. I move that we accept the the staff's findings of fact as it pertains to the request, and that we accept the staff's recommendations for restrictions, additional
And approve.
considerations, recommendations for consideration, and approve the variance under that.
Okay. And with the 5 recommendations that are stated?
Yes, with the 5 recommendations as stated.
Okay, need a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And we need to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.